I'm a simple guy, so I speak in simple terms. It's very simple. Banking as a service really is the ability to allow anyone to turn themselves into a bank without the heavy lifting of becoming a bank. Anyone from your favorite e-commerce retailer to your favorite social media site to your favorite whatever fintech player. And what we provide is the ability that comes with a full banking license and the tech that comes with it. Effectively, any kind of financial services product and will be embedded in the user journey.
Before I started in this gig, I thought banking was boring. How wrong was I? The rate of change and innovation in the banking industry right now is staggering. And in an industry that is going through massive transformation, there is no one more ambitious in their vision than Kelvin Tan from Standard Chartered Nexus. Imagine a world where some of the world's largest e-commerce platforms launch their own banking services. In fact, a world where banking is a white label, plug-and-play banking service that digitally marries any ecosystem to be able to provide their customers with banking services. No banking license issues, no need to build infrastructure, immediate access to data and services to provide incentives tailored to your customers' needs. Think, free shipping for life for all Amazon Bank customers. Low interest credit cards and business loans to platform users based on how much you spend or how much your business turns over. The incredible intersection of customer data and personalized banking power is mind-blowing. So let's take a look at what this means for Kelvin and his team as they roll out this solution and go live with their first partnerships in 2022. Welcome to Touchpoints, and very, very happy to have the incredible Kelvin Tan from Standard Chartered Nexus with us, who has had a pretty incredible journey getting to where he's got. And like always, we're going to start off with that very simple question. Give us that 2 to 5 minute story, Kelvin, of how the heck you got to this place, because it's a fascinating space to be in.
Glenn, I have no idea how I got here, right? It's a long history of trying to do something that is atypical. So I started out the journey really started in college. I'm a political science major. I went to grad school in international relations, did most of my classes in the business school for some strange reason, and decided to have a bit of fun with that. Wanted a career in the foreign service, but ended up in a management associate program in the bank. And that's completely out of my comfort zone, and I thought that would be fun to try. And if you look at my journey, professional career so far, professional journey, it's always been a case of trying something that I've never done before. Started out in consumer finance, moved into consumer analytics, moved into consulting, moved into corporate banking in the transaction banking side, and then came back to retail, did payments for a while, and came up with this idea about 4 years ago, before banking as a service was even a term. At that point in time, I called it platform banking in 2017, right? And effectively, the idea was a very simple one. There are many, many questions to solve, but the biggest question to solve as an industry from retail and SME banking's perspective is how do you create a business model that allows you to significantly scale balance sheet without actually incurring the traditional cost of scaling. Something that is at a operating profit perspective or cost-income ratio perspective, something below 50%. Now, and the way I thought about it, given the circumstances of the time, given the competition, given the emergence of super apps, and given the emergence of larger ecosystems, not just super apps, why wouldn't a bank like Standard Chartered, given that it has 40 markets, right, 40 licenses around the world, not in Europe, and that allows for it to really scale by white labeling itself effectively. Why wouldn't you invest some money, build out the technology layer that will help you scale that? Because in the banking as a service model, you will need the ability to process tens of millions of concurrent users, not tens of thousands, which traditional banking legacy systems tend to restrict you to. So why wouldn't you invest some money, build out the tech capability required, deploy it into the bank, leverage the fact that you have 40 licenses around the world, and make the bank the largest invisible bank in the world? That really was the genesis of the idea. Went through a long conversation, obviously many debates in the bank as large and as global as Standard Chartered, but eventually got funded, built out the prototype, got a partner on board. As you know, we've announced 2 live partnerships in Indonesia. We are rolling out to Malaysia. We are rolling out to looking at Vietnam and Thailand, and also looking at various other markets in Africa and the Middle East now. We anticipate that this will roll out. We'll roll out maybe 1 or 2 countries a year from this point on, and then hopefully we roll out to all 40 markets in the SCB network. That's essentially the 2-minute story of how we started and how I got to where we are today. It was me with 5 slides, and the coffee with Bill that started the journey. Now we are a 250-man team and growing because we are building out multiple systems in multiple countries.
Let's take a step back, because for 99% of people on the planet, white labeling a plug-and-play banking as a service solution seems unfathomable. So, in its most simplistic form, can you explain to us what it's really doing? And maybe let's just talk about the example of your Indonesian partnerships to provide some context, because I think that's going to be where some people will actually connect those dots and go, e-commerce integration, ecosystem, that whole service that you're adding in there, that'd be a fantastic place for us to start.
Thanks, Glenn. I mean, I'm a simple guy, so I speak in simple terms. It's very simple. Banking as a service really is the ability to allow anyone to turn themselves into a bank without the heavy lifting of becoming a bank. Anyone from your favorite e-commerce retailer to your favorite social media site to your favorite whatever fintech player, and what we provide is the ability that comes with a full banking license and the tech that comes with it. Effectively, any kind of financial services product, and will be embedded in the user journeys or the customer journeys of anyone. So today, if I use Amazon, I order from Amazon, I buy stuff on Amazon, and I check out. It's the end state of this is that Amazon Bank becomes live on the back of this, and it's a new button on the app or companion app, depending on the execution requirements of Amazon. And yeah, Amazon Bank is live, powered by Standard Chartered, and Glenn opens an Amazon Bank account, takes an Amazon Bank loan, takes an Amazon credit card. At the merchants on Amazon take an Amazon Bank corporate account, and so on and so forth. So effectively, it is bringing banking to you rather than you having to come to the bank at scale. Yep.
So for those large e-commerce players, what is the big draw card for incorporating banking into a service into their offering?
It's the same reason why so many of these players are moving into financial services. One is an alternative revenue stream, which is great. But more interestingly, obviously, it's a fact that creating financial services as part of your ecosystem creates stickier customers. Effectively, customers who do more, who transact more, and generate more data on your platform that allows for you to find new monetization opportunities. From the platform's perspective, it makes a lot of sense. From the bank's perspective, it makes a lot of sense. In fact, the reason we call it Nexus, and when I called it Nexus 4 years ago, is the fact that it ticks off the boxes for all the key players in the ecosystem. It ticks off the boxes for the bank because it is a very relatively cheap scaled way of growing balance sheet. For the ecosystem players, it accounts for the ability to create stickier ecosystems without having to go through the pain of applying for a banking license and the capital requirements around that. For regulators, they're awesome because now the bank is actually at the back of it, which means that the regulators don't need to change the way they regulate the system. They don't need to go after the fintech players and or the ecosystem players. The banks anyway know exactly what the regulator wants and how to deal with it. And for the end consumer, it is fantastic because once you have something like this, the embedded experience will also allow for fully hyper-customized offerings, right? Like what Glenn does on Amazon, what you buy, how you buy it, and what that information will do in terms of your next purchase and your next process, and better underwriting, because then knowing your repayment tendencies will allow for you to get better pricing on loans, for example. All of that ticks many positive boxes, not to mention financial inclusion, right? Reaching out to people that banks otherwise would not be able to reach out to. So that's why we call it nexus. It takes off all the four key players in the ecosystem. It's a nexus of interest.
So, Kelvin, you say that you're a simple man and you speak simple languages, but getting this off the ground has to be an incredibly complex challenge, especially when you're breaking ground in areas that, if not nobody, very few have embarked on before. I know there are some other players out there at the moment, but what are some of the complexities that you've had to deal with and the challenges as an organization to be able to actually deliver this in market?
Well, not many people. I don't think
No.
anyone has actually done this inside a large global bank. So that's a first for us. But the key challenges are multifold. Right? The biggest challenge is the fact that something like this requires so many stakeholders to pull off, not just internally, but also externally. You need a partner with the right ecosystem, and you need a partner with the right kind of cultural inclinations to have this conversation with and close that out. Plus, you need internal supporters. You need to explain the concept to multiple stakeholders in a bank, right? For treasury, to risk, to finance, to legal, given the number of contracts that are required across all of these things. Now, well, all I can say is the bank and Bill in particular has been massively supportive. They've managed to Bill and Julie, who is the head of retail and SME for Standard Chartered Bank, and Alex Manson for SE Ventures. They've been massively supportive, and what they've done is they took my advice and they created and insulated basically my team from most of the bank. We have our own technical team, we have our own operations team, we have our own product team, with the ability to socialize with the bank, but more or less make independent decisions. I forgot to mention Andy as well, who is the CFO, who's been massively supportive because obviously the funding comes from there. So yeah, it's been a massive journey, and I mean, yes, it could have been faster if you did it outside the bank, but you wouldn't actually have the access to the licenses and the ability to scale this globally. So it's a trade-off, and I think we've managed the trade-off decently well. The proof in the pudding now is how fast can we go to 10 markets, 20 markets in the next 5 years, right?
Talk to me about Bukalapak. I mean, 100 million customers, 13 million sellers. What does it mean for them? It must be a game changer for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're very excited, right? They did their IPO last year, and they are looking forward to becoming a full-fledged financial services provider. I mean, they already have something on it. They do some, if I'm not wrong, some wealth and some stock trading. And this effectively ties it up for them, right? It allows for them to offer deposit accounts, current loans, and credit across their user lifecycle, both sellers and buyers. I think the partnership has been a very good one. Teddy, myself, Willix, we've been in close collaboration. Teddy is the president and Willix is the current CEO. So it's an exciting journey, and the same can be said for Sociolla in Indonesia, which is the second partner, which will come online not long after Bukalapak is out. We are actually in beta. We are live in production. We are just waiting for final regulatory approval to open the floodgates effectively.
So what will the Bukalapak customers be able to do?
In the first instance, they'll be able to open a Bukalapak bank account. The Bukalapak is the brand that Bukalapak has chosen. Bukalapak bank account, it will be a full-fledged CASA account with no caps, no limits on payments, and interest bearing. And the interest, I believe the value proposition ties into how much you spend on Bukalapak. So the idea always is to support the partner's value proposition. It will come with a debit card, a fully digital debit card. The onboarding process will be the first in Indonesia. It's completely digital. There is no WhatsApp callback via call center. Our current record is 2 minutes 35 seconds from clicking yes, I would apply, to actually having a live account and transacting. So that's our current record. We hope to beat it in the near future. Then that's what you will get at the first instance. Then this next iteration will be loans, which will come sometime this year, followed by cards, which will hopefully also come sometime this year, and SME accounts.
So that simplicity and ease of use must be a massive thing for them in and around creating that sticky customer.
That's right, and it helps that we have a good partner in Bukalapak. So effectively, when you say you want to sign up for a Bukalapak bank account, it effectively allows you, and you say yes to the T's and C's. The data sharing between Bukalapak and the bank happens, and changes the way you onboard and underwrite the customer.
You're looking at some of the other Asian countries in regards to the next steps, Vietnam and the such like.
That's right.
Are there any different regulatory challenges that really make it a struggle to open in any of these markets, or is that a reason you've chosen these markets because you know them better and it'll be easier to get things off the ground?
No, look, I have a history of picking the toughest battle and making it work, right? So we've chosen Indonesia firstly because there's a great partner there that we found that was very advanced, and we got that. And more importantly, the regulatory environment in Indonesia, while challenging, will also provide a great litmus test, right? If we can clear it in Indonesia, I think the rest of the ASEAN countries will become hopefully a better and simpler conversation.
Yeah.
We also have the bank has great regulatory relationships given its footprint in all of these countries. So that for us is what we leverage on with the local teams. And the next country we will roll out in is Malaysia. We are very close to signing the first partner. We have 3 or 4 partners in the pipeline there, and 2 or 3 partners in Vietnam. A couple of partners dispersed across, like I said earlier, Thailand, potentially India, and some parts of Africa and the Middle East. We have to prioritize them, of course. Even a 400-man team can't do more than 1 or 2
so that must
at any one time, right?
Create some challenges in and around scaling. While you can scale the infrastructure, it's the onboarding of the partners that can create not just backlog, but headaches as well.
Yeah, actually, the biggest problem is not interest from partners. There's plenty of interest from potential partners, and we will chase them. And we'll go through, there's a process, and we'll run through them. We'll probably end up with 1 big partner in each country and a selection of medium-sized partners around them, right? So you have 5 or 6 partners in each country. Now, but what's most challenging really is scaling up at a cost-efficient manner the technology resources required to deliver them. Right, so obviously we are looking at the usual places: Vietnam, Philippines, India. And we have, like I said, 250 people today dispersed across multiple countries. As we go, each time we have a new country and a new partner, we will need at least another 30 engineers, right? And where do we find them? Even if we can find engineers, are they of good enough quality? Those are the key challenges that we will face. I mean, especially in COVID as well. While it is a boon for work from home and remote working, it is also difficult from a visa perspective if we want them to be located in
specific countries. So there's one thing I'd like to go back to and touch on, because I think it's a fascinating enhancement to the experience that people at organizations are going to be able to roll out. And you mentioned something along the lines of interest rates will be tied to spend on the platform. So data must be playing a massive part in this, and how these massive e-commerce platforms can actually then utilize even more data to make better decisions, to make stickier customers, and to increase the frequency and volume of purchases on their platforms.
And it's data usage on both ends, right? For us as well, in terms of how we onboard, how we underwrite, how we actually create a better, more customized financial services experience for the customers. So yes, data sharing is key. We obviously abide by all the regulatory restrictions around data sharing. And where there are specific use cases that make a lot of sense and that do not compromise against those, we obviously have the right conversations with the regulators to get it through. So yeah, absolutely. The whole idea is for the end-to-end experience for the end user to be complete.
It would be, I think it's going to be a really, really interesting space to watch then, when these e-commerce giants have access to additional incentives to really make these customers more sticky and become those brand champions of themselves, and through the simple action of providing these services and having access to that additional layer of data, which must put a massive drain and on resources in regards to data centers and just the sheer cost of hosting and analyzing that data must be incredible.
It's not that bad. I mean, most of the stuff that we do, we're allowed by regulators, is on secure public cloud, and we work with the cloud providers. So it's not terrible from a cost perspective, and we are also very cost efficient in terms of how we deliver the platform. It's not a whole bunch of vendors that essentially get signed on and get melded together. It really is quite a bit of IP built on the side of the bank from open source. So but we've obviously upgraded because we wouldn't be able to move into production without clearing every single security requirement of the bank, which is onerous.
Yeah, with that in mind, is there
involved. So
thinking about those markets and what you need to do to have that infrastructure in each of those markets, data sovereignty, is that an issue that you've had to overcome in regards to where that data is stored and what you do with it?
Yeah, so different markets will have different approaches to data sovereignty. Vietnam will probably have less issues basis current regulations. Indonesia obviously has a significant focus on data sovereignty, and we comply.
Pretty hard to argue with it, isn't it? It's deal or no deal.
Yeah.
Excellent. What's next for you in regards to what we've got coming up over the next 6 months? You've got those big deals coming through. Are there any iterations in and around the surface in regards to the service that you've really got to focus on? And we'll finish up with that because you've unpacked a whole heap of great stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, this year, the focus is executing Indonesia well and the roadmap that I talked about earlier in terms of product and partners. And then signing Malaysia and deploying for Malaysia. Hopefully, we can go live by the end of this year, latest. And starting that journey with Malaysia as well. Theoretically, it should be much simpler given that the stack has been built and it's a matter of deployment and integrations and testing. But we'll find out, I guess, when we actually go on that journey. I'm not going to pretend that we can foresee everything that will screw up.
If you're not breaking anything, you're not growing, right? You're not learning.
Yeah. Yeah, and something will screw up, as I've learned. Every day something will screw up. It's riding the wave. I think the challenge for what people call intrapreneurs like me is really learning to be resilient and ride that wave when things screw up. Either if it's a system screw up or if it's a technical screw up, it's actually much easier to deal with. When it's people who I don't know who are outdated or who don't understand the new world of data and digital, then that becomes a bit more of a frustrating.
That's great. Thanks, Kelvin. And look, from a personal perspective, I have been absolutely fascinated and loved following your journey. I think it's just such a great example of you never know your limits unless you push past what people believe is possible.
Yeah, I mean, everyone should give it a shot, right? I mean, what's the downside? Like most people wonder how I actually pitched this. I said I sent an email to bill.winters@se.com. It's public knowledge what his email address is, right? And what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is he forgets. He thinks it's a stupid idea and he forgets my name 30 seconds after meeting me.
Yep. I struggle to see how anyone is going to forget the name Kelvin Tan over the years to come. So thank you so much for giving up a little bit of your time, my friend. Wish you all the best with the rollout in Indonesia. And I know Malaysia is going to be 10 times easier, 10 times better, and all the best of success for Nexus over the next couple of years. Thanks for listening into this episode, which is made possible by the team at touchpointgroup.com. The customer intelligence company you can partner with to rapidly translate your customer feedback data into actionable insights that will enable you to prioritize actions that make a demonstrable difference. You'll find a link to their website in the show notes. Thanks again. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and see you soon.